So who am I? I'm Nathan. I've been in this space for 3 years or so. Started a company called Async 3 years ago. Over 3 years ago, I used to be an art director at Apple. Always in the creative field. I was there for about 5 years, and then kind of fell down the rabbit hole of crypto, as we all probably have, and got obsessed with it and decided, although this is great in my dream job, now I have a new dream, and kind of just like could not stop thinking about it. So gone to the space. I decided to leave Apple, and at the same time met our other founder, Conlon, and we started a company called Async, which the idea behind it at the very beginning was with blockchain, and now that we can tokenize art, that's great. But we were even then 3 years ago thinking about dynamic NFTs, because we thought, this is awesome, it's great that you can prove provenance and stuff, but what can you do with your artwork? As an artist, now that there is the blockchain, is there a way that heightens your ability to express yourself? Is there a way that it pushes how you even make your art? And that was kind of the impetus and the jump off point of what async art was, and it used layers in the same way PFPs do. And at that time, CryptoKitties was out, and CryptoPunk, so we had some like layer-based things, but not in a way that was dynamic. And our first product was dynamic. We've gone through multiple iterations since then, and kind of come around to a version we're at now, which this is more about just what can dynamic NFTs do, and hopefully our version of it, as I go through it, kind of inspires you all in the same way our first product, when we'd explain it to people, got people's kind of mind spinning and thinking creatively. So that's my hope with this. But first, let's just talk about a couple high-level ideas here that I'll touch on in this and how we got to where we're at. The idea of like just the creator economy in general, and our thesis of where we see it right now and where it's going. Right now, you have a lot of like push to everyone type models, which we're all familiar with. And over time, those have gotten really good at actually letting the people in the audience, or your collectors, or your followers, actually kind of touch back towards the main creator. So if YouTube or Twitch, you can donate, you can maybe get called out, or you can do something where the creator calls you out on the stream, things like that. So we're starting to see this kind of back and forth between the people who are following these creators and the creators themselves. That's great, but it's still kind of singular, and we all know with NFTs and having kind of your own personas and personal identities, that really starts to scratch this itch of getting around having a more immersive like interconnectivity behind the whole community. So people influencing each other, people influencing the creator at the top, creating the assets, having just a much more rich and dynamic community base. That's one of the things that we think will really get unlocked more. And PFP projects, started to get there with everybody having their own identities. The problem is they're all kind of separate. They're all their own individual communities, and you have your identity, but it's kind of based on, and I'll show this graphic, it's kind of based sometimes around like the luck, what you pulled, is it more rare, which is great. I think anything collectible needs some of that. But how do we drive the value as we go into the future of the NFTs more towards this other side, which is what we think has longer legs than just having something rare, or the values based on the fact that it is high value monetarily to other people and you can resell it. It's great, it's fun, but how do we get more on this other side, which is about self-expression, pride in what you've collected? I think that takes some more input from the collector themselves, and that's kind of how we get into dynamic NFTs more. So our product that kind of like is doing it in this way, again, this is just our way of approaching it. We call them dynamic cores or dynamic blueprints. And cores are when you go and you mint a piece. If you imagine you're minting from a NFT project like a PFP project, when you mint from it, you right out the gate get your unique item. And we do that too. We have a tooling system that allows artists to do that, no code. But in this new product, what it'll be is when you mint it, it actually comes as like a blank shell. And this is just a super simple example I created to kind of express the idea behind it, which is, imagine it's a real world item. I think that helps imagine it. Imagine it's a blank record player. And the idea is this record player, which is a core, when anyone comes in and mints, it comes out the gate blank. Everybody's is the same. And in fact, we even are going to make them soulbound for some of these. It depends on the project, but we really think this hits home of how the system will work. If it's soulbound, that means you can't trade it. Soulbound tokens are locked to your wallet. If you don't know that, and it means you cannot trade it, and it's soulbound to your wallet. So that means you can't speculate on that, and it's okay because, for instance, our launch piece will be free, And it's not about the speculation on the asset. And when you mint from it, everyone's will look the same anyway. The idea is you're collecting expansion traits. And this is where the dynamic element comes in. These expansion traits, which are really cool, these are things that other artists can create. And then they're essentially making items that work within the core. So for instance, if we take a record player, maybe musicians create their records, they put them out. These are separate ERC 1155 tokens that they have minted on their own contract. And if I own it and it's in my wallet and I own this dynamic core, well, our tool will see that you own both and it'll allow you to apply it to it. And if you apply it to it, it updates both the image and, if you have audio enabled, the audio in it. So all of a sudden you have this kind of working NFT that's almost becoming like an early web page in a way. It can essentially do anything at a certain point. But right now we're in the very early days of it, which is just updating states 0 to 1 or A to B. But you can imagine that over time, with not having to do any gas fees, just by signing your intent that you own this, proving you own both of these items, you can change things on the fly, collect new items, and show them off. And this really starts to get more to a place where your core is a place you're showing off your collection in one place, and you can switch it out whenever you want. Here's a little bit of a breakdown, a little bit more when I'm saying all these terms. A core would be that ERC 721. Slots, we call them, are just the layers that are pre-built into that core. It's basically the rails that the playground that any other artists who want to come in have to play within. They go, okay, there's a record slot. I will make a visual for that. I'll add the audio that's paired with that. And when I update my core, it actually shows in the properties what I've updated it with. You can go and open so you can see, okay, they have this in that core, in that slot, and that this person made it. And over time, this is just a high-level overview of what that ecosystem starts to look like. You can see the core is created by a brand or a creator, and that's like the playground of the world that people create within. And then these expansion packs underneath it are all created by anyone. They come in, as long as they're playing within the rules and it's approved, they can put out their expansion pack, people come in and buy it, and then they can update their core. And over time, ideally, these collectors actually might come in and make their own expansion packs themselves. And so you're bringing all this value back to the core, and you're allowing people to create without always creating a completely separate collection. It allows creators themselves, if they just wanted to own it themselves, create an ongoing story with one collection instead of having to always make a brand new collection each time. So that's another thing about not having to dilute your original collection each time you want to make new art, because artists want to make, and they're going to keep making. But if they can make things that bring value back to the original collection, that's a lot stronger. And then I think, hopefully, thinking about all that, what that might do is we hope that this slowly pushes this kind of value system a bit more towards the being proud of what you've curated and actually enjoying it for the sake of what you have. In the same way I collect records in real life, I don't need to resell it, and yet I'm proud when I look at the wall of what I've collected, because it expresses my taste. Even though I didn't make the music myself, it expresses my unique viewpoint of music. So I think that's it. Anyway, we're actually launching this exists and it's working, and it's launching next week. So async.art, if you want to check it out. Async.market is where you can try out these cores, and they're free. So.